Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the BJJ Foxcast. I'm your host, Alex Martinez, and today I'm really excited to have a good friend of mine, Beau Tribolet. Beau is a third degree black belt under Jair Lourenço Gurgel. Is that power MMA or that's Kimura, right?
Kimura,
yeah.
We train out of power.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I got to try to figure out how to keep this within like an hour and 15 because I'm up against it today.
I hear you.
But this is my first morning podcast. I've never done one in the morning. Friday morning, I think I might start doing this. This is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Pretty convenient. But so tell me about you, man. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Tucson.
Okay.
I lived there till 2016, and I moved up here after I retired.
Okay.
The police department.
Was it Tucson PD?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk about that? What did you do for the police department?
I was a patrol supervisor for 9 years. I medically retired fully medically retired in 2016. I did pretty much patrol type work, tactical work. I was in a gang tactical unit. I was on the SWAT team for a little bit of time.
Wow.
I usually tried to stay busy in the field. I wasn't really a desk guy.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah.
didn't really want to be inside.
Yeah.
I spent like maybe 6 months one time in an inside assignment, and it drove me nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
How did you handle like wearing like, you know, the bulletproof vest and all that other shit in like 100+ degree weather?
Well, I grew up in Tucson, so it wasn't a big adjustment for me, and you just get used to it. It's like wearing a gi. They're uncomfortable, but everybody gets used to it. Then you find one that's cool. It's like, now it's better. Yeah,
man. Yeah. Did you do anything like motorcycles or stuff like that? I always wonder about those guys. They got to be suffering out there.
No, I didn't. I never had any desire to do that.
Okay.
And those guys have, they do a hard job, no doubt, but you have to have for me, I know how I drive, and I would have a problem pulling people over for doing things that I do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it's with police where probably like with any job, you have to have a passion for what you do.
Yeah.
I'm not a motorcycle guy.
Okay.
And those guys love motorcycles. They love.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
They're really, really good on motorcycles. The training they go through is, it's some of the hardest a lot of people fail out of motorcycle training.
Really?
Yeah. It's very difficult, and you have to really, really want to do it.
Okay.
I would say the training is up there with like SWAT training.
Wow.
It's very technical, and they're moving these huge bikes around, and I just had I really had no desire to do that during my career. I have one of my old partner in the gang unit did that for a long time, but he's a motorcycle guy. And he loves to ride a motorcycle. So
that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So why doesn't Tucson have a loop?
Tucson is probably one of the most poorly run cities as far as government goes. Okay. They've talked for years about putting a freeway like through the city, but Tucson it's pretty small. Mm-hmm. If you kind of think of the loop of like the 101, the 202, the 60. Yeah. Like Tucson's just kind of that big. It's not like just that area in there, kind of like where you live east. But if you're going to go from the west side to the east side in Tucson, it would, just try, like imagine driving to your gym through city streets. Yeah. And that's what it's like. My middle daughter lives on paper an hour away from me. It takes me an hour and 45 minutes to get there because you have to drive through the city. There's no easy way to get anywhere. Right. So most, like when I was a cop, we lived off the freeway. Yeah. Wherever we moved, whatever house we bought, we lived off the freeway because it'll drive you crazy. Yeah. It'll drive you nuts there. And then there's a lot of snowbirds there that don't understand they're supposed to leave at certain times of the year. So you're dealing with that all the time. Yeah. So. Yeah. So, I used to do work up there back in my old job when I was an AC guy. I did sales, so I went to Tucson a lot. And you're right. Like getting to Tucson took me about an hour 15, hour 20. Getting to where I had to go, about an hour 45. Yeah. It was, and if you're real lucky, the place is under construction, right? Or the roads are under construction. You can't go anywhere. That's the other thing is they seem to do it everywhere, but like Tucson's just sort of infamous for like the busy time of year. Well, let's tear up the most busy intersection. Yeah. For like 2 years, they redid the I-10 to put lanes in or whatever, and a lot of people were like, why are you like, there's nothing wrong with I-10.
Yeah.
We don't have this huge influx of traffic or anything. And it was like they had some extra money and they were bored and they were like, well, how can we inconvenience everybody that lives south of Grant Road?
Yeah.
And they just tore it up. And it was probably 2 or 3 years of driving on frontage roads with lights. And one day there's a cone here, the next day there isn't.
Yeah.
It was not good. I just think it's poor planning.
Gotcha.
Like with most cities, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess they do the best they can, but yeah, it's not, downtown's nice. They kind of built that up a little bit. You know?
Yeah, that's where I ended my career. I was a downtown supervisor, and it was there. The thing is, Tucson is Tucson. You can't dress up a pig, and that's just reality. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up there, but it's still. At the end of the day, the people that, if you want to sell stuff, there's certain things that you got to put out. And when you do that in a city like Tucson, there's, crime and violence and stuff kind of come. Like the downtown area, they started out, they wanted to be like a trendy place where the folks from the north side and people with money would come down and spend money. And it started out fine, but then they realized, well, we can't really sustain it like this. So now we need to add hip hop night. Well,
oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Hip hop night. Unfortunately, and 99% of the people there are cool. Yeah. It's just that 1% that comes in and cause problems. And it's, you can literally track it. I mean, within, there's always like a time frame within 2 months of the hip hop bar or the hip hop night, there's going to be a shooting. It doesn't mean somebody's going to get shot or hurt, but someone's going to fire a gun. And then now we've got police presence there. And, people don't want to go to a place where there's 14 cop cars sitting outside. Right. They want to go where where it feels safe and fun. Yeah. So that was always the fight in Tucson, in the downtown area. And they tried to beef up patrol and do a bunch of things there that would give the perception. But at the end of the day, people are going to do what people are going to do. And there's only so many cops, and and businesses don't want cops sitting in front of their business. It's a turnoff. Yeah, it is. So, and it wasn't like we were told stay away, but it's like, look, if they're not calling you, well, if you're going outside to get your gun and shoot it in the air and you look around, there's no cops. Well, there you go. Yeah. And here we go again. And now the next time, the following week, now you've got 10 police cars out in front of that business. And, all because of the actions of one person ruins it for everybody. It's that old adage, Yeah. Yeah. Did you find that you dealt with like the same people over and over being a cop? Like it was that 1% that's always seems to be having a bad day. Yeah, it's funny that that's 100%. I mean, most departments have their term for them, and we call them frequent flyers. Right. Yeah. The same people, and it's not just gang members or drug dealers, but the same domestic violence. Same shoplifters, same burglars. It's always the same, you're dealing with the same people. Most of the time they're a lot of them from the same neighborhoods. They all know each other. And there's kind of an upside to it, is you get to know them and you get to be on a first name basis with people. Yeah. Yeah. And so you can kind of, sometimes expedite things. You can come to you don't necessarily have to arrest everybody if you know people and you can kind of talk to them. But yeah, that's a very common thing in police. Where I think that's anywhere you go. Yeah, cop it, no matter what, wherever you're dealing with crime and stuff like that, it's going to be the same characters all the time. Yeah, yeah. I actually had a interaction with a police sergeant not too long ago. It was dealing with some stuff, but he was dealing with this person who wasn't quite right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the verbal judo I saw this guy throwing was amazing. Everything he said was perfect. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you could tell this person wasn't quite right. This person was having a bad day, but there was something else going on. Right. And this guy caught it right away. And then the interaction was like, every time he said something, I was like, holy shit, that was perfect. Yeah. You know what I mean? Is that something that you find, like, you guys get a lot of training in that, dealing with the unreasonable or people? It's fun. No, I mean, you go through a 17-week academy. It's usually between 16 and 20 weeks, depending on what agency you're working with. Yeah. And they just kind of show you how to they show you how to be a cop on paper. They show you how to put your gun belt on. Yeah. How to wear your uniform, how to turn the car on. you learn how to do the job once you get out into field training.
Wow.
So it's important who your field training officers are. I was fortunate. I had good field training officers, but it's also just kind of how you grow up. I think how you're raised.
Yeah.
If you're someone that can talk to people, you're going to have a better career. You're going to have a more kind of like what you're talking about with the sergeant. If I can tell you this, so I was a cop for almost 20 years. I retired at 18. In that time I was in, I want to say 2 or 3 actual physical fights over 18 years.
Wow.
And which is not like most cops that especially if you're in an active assignment like I was in, you would get, you're talking a fight a month.
Yeah.
But I just had a different outlook on things. I didn't go to work looking, and not to say the cops do it, but some do. I didn't go to work looking for a fight.
Right.
For me, it was a job, and I just wanted to not get in trouble was a big thing, but you just kind of learn how to talk to people. But I also grew up in an area of Tucson and my parents did, I always think they did it by design, but I don't know if they actually did it intentionally.
Yeah.
But we grew up in my parents were hardworking. My dad was a contractor. My mom was like a behavior counselor.
Yeah.
So they were, we weren't flying to Paris for lunch or anything, but we didn't want for anything.
Right.
But my parents never moved out of the neighborhood they started in. And that neighborhood was all races, all socioeconomic backgrounds. So, I had white friends, black friends, Mexican friends. It didn't, so that stuff never really came into play. And we didn't grow up thinking on those lines. So I grew up learning how to, interacting with everybody.
Yeah.
I played football in high school, Al Bundy style. We'll talk about that. I played football at a high school that was, again, drew everybody. It drew kids from the north side, which is, the north side's usually the rich kids. And then the kids from the ghetto. Yeah. And we all got along. I mean, nobody even thought about stuff like that. So that carried over when I was a police officer. I didn't see, I wasn't afraid to get out and talk to a black dude.
Yeah.
Get out of the car and talk to a Mexican dude. That was just what I did every day at school and every day growing up. It wasn't a big deal at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big asset. You can tell, there were guys I worked with that had never talked to a black person.
Whoa.
Never like actually, maybe, in a college class or, if they're helping them out at through their job or something, but they never like just interacted and hung out. They didn't understand, so it was just very, it's the stereotypes are real. And, if you get out of the car and you're dealing with a criminal, and it doesn't matter what color they are, they know, like they're like anybody else. They look at him and be like, oh, this dude's a rookie. He don't know what he's doing. And then the rookie who doesn't know what they're doing feels that the bad guy knows that, and it just makes for an awkward interaction. Yeah. So if you're comfortable and you just get out and, hey, what's up, man? So you just have a conversation. I found if you just have a conversation with most people, like nobody wants to go to guns right away. Everybody wants to talk, and you after a while you kind of learn how to, someone just wants to vent, or maybe they've had 100 bad interactions with the cops. So I can't expect to get out of my car and expect this dude to be my best friend. Yeah. And I always just worked on the idea of like, we don't have to be friends. This is a game. You're on one side and I'm on the other. My job is to catch you. Your job is to get away
with it.
It doesn't have to be violent. Yeah. If that's what you want to do, that's up to you. Yeah. But like we have more people with guns and that are trained than you do. So how about we skip all that and just have a conversation? And if you have to go to jail, you can smoke a cigarette, give your girlfriend a kiss goodbye, put you in the car, we'll listen to the radio on the way, it'll be fine. Yeah. Or you can run and we're going to get a dog over here. It's going to bite you on the leg, and then we're going to have to take you to the hospital. And guess what? At the end of all of this, you're going to end up in jail. Yeah. So why don't we just skip all that? And it worked, especially if you just sit there and you talk to them like a person. There's certain ways you talk to, you just got to know your audience. Certain folks don't like to be handcuffed on the ground and have a police officer standing over them. Some folks don't like to be handcuffed in front of their families, and you just have to know, the different cultures and what you're dealing with. I got that growing up.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a class I had to take. And then in police work's a lot like jiu-jitsu. Like, you know, if there's something that you do and when we roll, you do it, I'm like, oh, hey, show me that. And then you show me. And then there's something I do, you might like it, and I show you. Sort of the same thing in police work. Like if you have a newer officer, somebody doesn't know an area or hasn't really dealt with a certain type of culture, you kind of school them up on it. And I was fortunate. I'm old now because I remember going in and people saying, you know, back in the old days, we had cops that would teach you, like, this is what you're dealing with here. Like, this dude does that, this family over here, this neighborhood here. And they would teach you that stuff. Yeah. And they were old school cops. They were the ones that, you know, that did things. If they did those things now, they'd be on the news. Yeah. But and nothing crazy, but just the stuff that you see, you know, there's, you know, when you're dealing with a certain type of person, you have to deal with that person in a certain way. Yeah. And, you know, gangbangers don't respond to, excuse me, sir, how are you? Right. They just don't. I mean, criminals that have been in the joint for half of their life, they don't respond to that. They respond to respect. Yeah. And, you know, talking to them like, hey, I understand who you are. You understand who I am. What's the deal? And you have to be okay as a cop being told no. Yeah. Because people have rights. Doesn't matter who they are. They have rights. So you know, a lot of police officers have a problem with that. They have a problem with, hey, can I look in your pockets? No. Oh, okay. Well, let me find another reason to mess with you. And I was as guilty as that as anybody else when I started, but you learn quickly that you can't do that. Yeah. You know, and forget getting in trouble and getting a reprimand or a suspension. Like, you're ineffective as a police officer if you take everything personal, because it's not personal. Yeah. But how do you keep, cause I'm kind of a hothead. So how do you keep from taking it personally? It's just like, you almost get callous to it, or is it something like, cause I mean, like we talked about earlier, you're dealing with the same basically people. You get to know them by name. After a while, you're like, man, can't you get your shit together? You know what I mean? Like, how do you not get to that point? I think with like the folks that I dealt with, I always tried to work in areas where it was busy. So like usually high crime, high narcotic areas, there's always something going on. Yeah. You know, if you're bored, you can go and start just talking to people on the street, you know, find a legal reason to stop them. Yeah. You know, through an interview or through the interaction, you find a way to, you know, to get in their pockets, or maybe they look and you find whatever. But you have to understand, I think people need to understand that this is not a choice. Mm-hmm. You know, this is like, usually from the time they were born, this is the path their life was going to take. And that, you know, if your grandfather did time in prison, your dad did time in prison, you know, like when I was a kid, my dad sat me down and talked to me about, you know, you need to either go to college, learn a trade, join the military, you need to get a job, save some money, buy a house, have a family. Yeah. When you're dealing with the criminal element, that's a lot of times it's generational. Their dad sits them down and says, okay, when you get to the county, you're going to hook up with, you know, so and so, and they're and then when you get to the state prison, they teach them this is how you talk to the cops. This is how you make sure. And again, it's not. I don't even think it's anything they're doing wrong. It's just what they know. It's generational. It's just generational. So when you're talking to somebody and they're a hothead or they're saying stupid things, I would always try to keep that in mind. But again, I didn't get out of my car with something to prove. Right. And I'll be honest. I think that a lot of police officers were the guys picked last in dodgeball. Wow. They were the ones that were the third string long snapper on the high school football team. And then all of a sudden they get hired, they go through an academy, they give them a badge and a gun, and all of a sudden they're a tough guy and they know everything. And you can see it. You can see that chip on the shoulder. The best cops that I worked with were people that had accomplished things. And I'm not talking like major things, but, you know, I mean, I have a couple of examples. I had a guy that I worked with that was a captain in the Army. He had done a couple tours overseas, had seen some really, really tough stuff. Yeah. And he had nothing to prove. He would come out, do his job. He was aggressive, but for him, it was a job. Yeah. You know, I knew a guy who played major college football. I mean, came out, did his job, you know, people yelling, screaming at him. He's like, man, I've played football in front of 80,000 people. I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
The guys that get offended by that, and the guys and girls that get offended by that, and take things a little too far, would be more along the lines of like I said, and we all know that guy.
Yeah.
We all know that girl, the one that was picked last in dodgeball. They were kind of you immediately become accepted into a group when you graduate from the academy.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter what your past is, but then your past comes back when you're in the field. And the one thing I say about the criminal element, and I don't even like saying that because they're just people that it's just the cards they were
different path.
Right?
Yeah.
They can read that. Like they're some of the smartest, like savvy people. Like they pick it up quick.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of cool to interact with them. Especially, I always got along with them.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say never. I mean, most of the time I didn't have an issue because I would just talk to them.
Yeah.
And I just told them straight, like, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And they appreciate that.
Yeah.
And especially people who have been inside, they appreciate, just tell me the truth. Like,
yeah.
Don't dick around. And we always, whenever you're interviewing somebody or you're doing an investigation, obviously you always assume they're lying.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't you lie? If you tell the truth, you're going to go to jail. Like, of course you're going to try. But most of the time it's just an experience is what it boils down to. There's no class, that you can take to teach you how to deal with people in the field. You just have to do it over and over again. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people get out there, they're not comfortable with it. So they become the officer in charge of light bulbs at the station.
Gotcha. Yeah.
They go become a school resource officer.
Yeah. Which are necessary, right? I mean, it's a necessary job, but they're probably better equipped to do that than someone like you who's going to be more active in,
Yeah. I mean, there's an argument on both sides of that. I think a lot of times some of the jobs that police officers are doing can be done by civilians, or they have 4 cops doing the job that one could do while they're on light duty.
Yeah.
But a lot of cops they want to, I think it's human nature.
Sure.
People want to do the least amount of work for the most amount of money. So it's like, well, I'll take a desk job and go inside and coordinate neighborhood meetings for the commander.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they take the detective test, and then they go become a property crimes detective, and then they take the sergeant's tests, and then 6 years into their career, they're out in the field again with really 1.5 to 2 years of actual field experience running an active shooter or a homicide scene, or dealing with a guy who just got into a fight with 3 cops and the dog had to bite him. Well, that person may have never even seen that.
Yeah.
And now they're having to run that, they're having to supervise that scene. So it causes some issues, but there's no simple fix. I mean, police work is hard. It's hard to keep people in the job. And, you start to realize as a cop that, man, it's not always worth it to go out here and do the job. And I can't imagine what it's like now.
Yeah.
I could not do the job now with what these folks have to do.
Yeah.
It's not even the cameras. I think the cameras are a good thing because most complaints are a mishmash of what really happened.
Okay.
But because it's a complaint, they have to take it seriously. You have to go through the motions.
Yep.
And of course, when you're interviewed, which I've been interviewed a lot, they're basically accusing you of doing something wrong. And you know you didn't do something wrong, but you have to explain it. And you realize, oh my God, that sounds like it. So you're always worried and concerned about it. So there's a lot of different, different aspects to the job, but you learn it on the job.
Yeah.
But you have to want to learn it.
Right.
And being a supervisor, I'm not big on having someone tell me what to do who didn't do what they're telling me to do.
Yeah.
And I just another, as far as police work goes in Tucson, I can't speak for other agencies, but I know in Tucson we would have so I would argue that the highest performing people in the police department are the SWAT team.
Yeah.
It's a very, it's a difficult test to get in. It's a difficult process to get in. And then the standards remain high while you're on the team. You have to pass I think a couple times a year, you have to pass a physical test, a shooting test every year. So you can't, most people go to the academy, they qualify with their pistol. And then for the first year after you get out, I'm going to go shoot every week. And then after 1.5, 2 years, you don't even move your gun out of the holster.
Yeah.
That's not an option when you're a SWAT operator. You have to continuously train, and you're training on the SWAT team too, but there's a standard there.
Yeah.
There's a massive pecking order. when you're new, like, you're new. Like, they're just like, you go stand in the corner and shut up.
Wow.
You know, like, go get the water. You know what I mean? And as a new guy on the SWAT team, you just do what you're told, which is great until you bring in a commander that was never on the SWAT team. Never did an operation, never been on an entry team, never been on a barricaded subject, never done a buy bust. And they're making the decisions. That, to me, from the very beginning of my career, made no sense.
Yeah.
I worked in a Part 1, I was a Part 1 crime supervisor, so we did homicide, ag assault, robbery, and sexual assaults. Those were our priorities, and I worked Saturday from 6 p.m. till Tuesday at 4 a.m.
Whoa.
So that was our shift. And I worked.
And you're on for the full, 4 days?
Know, you go home at 4 a.m. each
gotcha.
day, but
Gotcha.
I was a Saturday through Tuesday was when I worked. Every commander that I worked for, and I think I worked for 3 or 4 of them, none of them were violent crime supervisors. None of them had supervised a homicide.
Wow.
None of them had supervised a sexual assault call. And so when we would go to that call, my unit would go in, we would do our job, and then somebody would have a question or a complaint or something. They would call me in and go, well, why did you do this? Like, I would just sit there and be like, well, why don't you tell me how to do it?
Right.
You know, like, you were a motor sergeant. Like,
Yeah.
that was what your job was before you got here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had 2 people dead in the street, and maybe a detective did something a little bit off, or maybe we missed something, but, like, why don't you tell me what that was?
Yeah.
Now, I couldn't say that because
Right.
he was a commander, but, like,
course.
that's what you're thinking the whole time is, like, how did you get this job, man?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know in many other places where they hire somebody to supervise a unit that doesn't know what the unit does.
Wow.
And
that's wild, dude.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I'm sure at some point some cop in Tucson's going to listen to this and be like, well, bring the roster to me.
Yeah.
Let's have that conversation, because I can point them out. Even now, I mean, I know the people that still work, haven't been done that long. But it doesn't mean that they don't try.
Right.
But if you've never been on the SWAT team, how are you supervising the SWAT team?
Yeah, that's scary.
You know, how are you supervising the highest level people in the police department? And then the next level would be the homicide unit. I mean, they're investigating the worst crime that happens.
Yeah.
They have homicide supervisors that were never in homicide. They were never a homicide investigator.
Whoa.
And you're sitting there going, like, that's not all the time. Sometimes they do have that sergeant, or that sergeant gets promoted to lieutenant, and he was a homicide detective. He supervised a homicide unit. Well, that's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be. Yeah, yeah. That's a likely progression, right?
I mean, can you imagine in the military if you had a special forces commander who came from logistics? You know?
Or vice versa. You know what I mean? A special forces guy that runs logistics, everything get fucking lost.
Yeah, true. I mean, but I would argue that the special forces guy is going to be a lot more adaptable to figuring out logistics than a logistics guy trying to figure out how a bunch of, you know, special forces guys are going to jump out of helicopters or whatever those guys do.
Agreed.
So
yeah.
So that causes in the line of work. I mean, you obviously can't say it out loud a lot of the times, but it causes a lot of consternation.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a 10-year SWAT operator and you have some lieutenant come in and go, okay, well, we're going to do this from now on, and they're like, what? Like, what are you basing that off of?
Yeah.
But it's hard to have that conversation,
especially
when you have that conversation with a lieutenant who took the path that we talked about a little while ago. They didn't want to be in patrol, so they took a desk job.
Yeah.
They were a detective, then they were a sergeant, then they took an inside job, and now they're a lieutenant. They put him in charge of the SWAT team. This person's probably never done a dynamic entry, but he comes in and says he doesn't like the way the SWAT team's doing it. And they're like, dude, you haven't ever done this. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So it's and I guess it's that way, kind of that way in Jiu Jitsu sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you see that guy who's super excited to get his blue belt and wants to go tell all the white belts what to do. And you're sitting there going like, no, man, like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
I understand your passion, but no.
Yeah.
But we have a pecking order. Like, if you see that as an instructor or a black belt, you tell us stop.
Yeah.
Can't really do that in police work. You know?
Oh, gotcha.
Politically, it could be political suicide.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of little, what's the word I'll use? A lot of little nuances when you're talking about police work.
Yeah.
Overall, it was a good job.
Yeah.
I liked the work. I liked being out in the field. I could not stand or deal with the politics. I think that most people know me, know how I am. I don't change who I am for anybody. So, you know, if they ask the question, I would always say the same thing. Like, do you want me to say what you want to hear? Or do you want me to tell you what I think?
Yeah.
And, I got along pretty good with most commanders, but I also had a lot of beef with most commanders because they want to play the political game, and that's just not something I do.
Gotcha.
Not with police work. I mean, it's too important to play politics when you're talking about people's safety and quality of life for people, and they want to play games about, well, what's the city council person going to think? Like, who cares? Who cares what he thinks? Like, what about the people that live in that neighborhood?
Yeah.
Like, well, they don't want to see cops over here. Well, okay, then would they rather see dead people?
Yeah.
But you can't have that conversation in public. You have to have behind closed doors. And I was always the one going, who cares what that idiot wants? Like, he lives in the foothills. What does he like? What
Yeah.
And the commanders would be like, okay, you're not allowed to go to this meeting. And I'd be like, okay, I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, man. Hey, so where did Jiu Jitsu come into play? Like, when did you start doing that?
So I was on the SWAT team, and it took me 5 tries to get on the SWAT team. I failed like every year. I was the perennial come out and fail guy. And
like Happy Gilmore with hockey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I would go out.
See you next year.
I'd go out and I would fail I failed a tactical shoot by 5 1,000ths of a second.
Wow.
I literally put my toe on a line and failed a shotgun course. I think I failed a qualification one time, which is like showing up to jiu-jitsu and not being able to tie your belt. And then I didn't make it through an admin review a couple times. But so the 5th time I went on, they called, one of the guys on the team called me and said, are you coming out for the test? And I was like, nah, man, I'm sick of failing. And I don't want to do that. And he's like, oh, and he just kind of said that thing that, I just didn't figure you for a quitter. Oh, and I was like, oh, you son of a bitch. So I went to that test and I pulled in. And as I pulled in, all the team who had seen me come out and fail every year, as I pulled in, they kind of were like, hey, he's here. Which one's he going to fail today?
Fuckers.
But I just showed up and I didn't give a shit. And I actually went through and passed.
Nice.
So I got hit in the head a lot. What was that question?
No, we talked about where did jiu-jitsu come into play?
So I was on the team, but I was powerlifting at the time. So I used to weigh 300 pounds, like between 285 and 300 pounds.
Whoa.
I was huge.
Yeah.
And like really, really strong.
Yeah.
And I mean, I couldn't move. Like it was, when you're powerlifting, you don't do cardio. Like all you do is eat and lift.
Yeah.
And when I got on the team, I went through the process and they were like, okay, you're going to go to SWAT school. And I think it was October. And I was like, oh shit, I couldn't run. I was so big, I couldn't run. So I got through SWAT school, but it was so hard. And
yeah.
My brother's a firefighter, and my brother's he's like 5'10", about 180 pounds, and just like solid.
Yeah.
He's just like a rock,
Yeah.
And he's like always running, and he would run. He's a fitness nut.
Yeah.
But he was boxing at the time, and he just started, said, hey, you should, just come try to do this to lose some weight, to get your weight down. So I started doing that. It kind of turned out that I could punch hard. I didn't even know that. I never even threw a real punch until I was 30.
Yeah.
And at the gym that we were training at, they had a jiu-jitsu program.
Okay.
And it was very JV at the time.
Yeah.
The dude that taught it was, he's got a big school in Tucson now. He's a good dude, like very passionate about MMA. I think he ended up on the Ultimate Fighter at some point.
Oh, very cool.
Just a good dude. And he came up to me and just kind of also did just come do one class. If you do one class, I'll never bother you again.
Yeah.
And I did one class, and here we are.
Were you hooked? Were you hooked that one class?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a decent wrestling background. Like I knew how to wrestle. I was never like a dominant, wrestler, but I knew what to do, and I felt comfortable there, and it just kind of made sense.
Yeah.
And I liked it. And I felt like, man, this might be something I could do. And
yeah.
That was the end of it.
Yeah. Just based on the conversation that we're having right now, I can tell like you're a real curious guy. I mean, just the different aspects of police work that you did, and just the, understanding why people do what they do. And then people kind of, I don't want to call it like talking you into things, but kind of piquing your interest, right? Like, hey, I'm not going to show up for this, for the SWAT test. And then he kind of calls you out and you're like, what if I can, right? And then, this example of jiu-jitsu, just give it a try. And you're like curious enough to do that. That's really cool. I mean, not a lot of people have that.
Yeah. Well, and I did it when I was 30 when I started. So it wasn't like I was like a young kid.
Yeah.
I mean, now it feels like I was a young kid, but I just kind of, it's like the challenge of it
Yeah.
It was kind of what would get me. And the one thing, like my dad would always tell me and my brothers, like, if you start something, you finish it. Even if you finish last, like whatever you do, you don't quit.
Yeah.
So whenever I do something, I have to kind of like look at it and be like, is this something I'm going to, like if someone said, you want to play tennis? I don't have any interest in that.
Right.
So like, I mean, I might take a couple lessons, but at the end of the day, like I got no interest in running around hitting a little ball all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because I'm a caddy, but
we'll have to talk about that because that's freaking interesting too. But yeah, so you start jiu-jitsu, and did you get your blue belt through him?
No,
okay.
He wasn't really a Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It was no-gi grappling is how I started
okay.
doing it.
Yeah.
So he was just a no-gi grappler. He got like a judo background, and the honest answer is he was just showing very basic stuff, but at that time it was new. Nobody knew it.
Revolutionary. Yeah.
So it was like, oh, this is pretty cool stuff. I ended up just sticking with it for, while I started fighting. And then, the first time I actually got like put a gi on was probably a couple of years later. I went to a school in Tucson that was run by the claim by the instructor was he's the only Brazilian teaching jiu-jitsu in Tucson, which was true at the time. And, I joined that school for about a year. And I just didn't get on. At the time it was the old school jiu-jitsu ways of like, white belts don't talk. And, and I was like, look, man, like I'm a 30-year-old man. Like I'm a police supervisor. Like, dude, you're an orderly at the hospital. Like,
right.
I get that you're a jiu-jitsu black belt, but like at the end of the day, man, like I'm cool with learning from you, but I'm not cool with you talking to me like you're like, like
some kind of superior.
Yeah. Because if we leave here and we compare everything else in our lives, like you should probably be asking me for advice. Right. And so I didn't really get on with that too much. And then, so I kind of went back to my other gym and just stuck with no-gi. And then our gym got bought out. And a dude showed up there. His name's David Riley. And, Dave's like 5'7", 5'8". Like if you looked at him, you'd be like, there's no way this dude does.
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu.
I know Dave.
You know Dave,
I know
right?
Dave. Yeah.
Like one of the best guys that's ever been around. And he came in and he basically was like, I mean, that's cute. You're a fighter and everything, but like, have you ever done jiu-jitsu in a gi? And I was like, that shit is gay. Like, I got to have those grips. And he's like, well, let's try it. And the first time we rolled, I think he was a brown belt at the time, and I think I was a purple belt.
Okay.
And he pulled guard and did something with his feet, and he basically did an elevator armbar on me. And at the time, I was like 230 pounds.
Wow.
Like I was fighting, and I was like on my way up, and this little like we always used to call him, the little metrosexual looking dude. Like Dave's always like his hair was perfect.
Yeah, it's always perfect.
His clothes were perfect. He'd show up to the gym like with a V-neck pink shirt and some funky shorts, and he armbarred me. And to this day, every time if we see each other, we remember that. And that took me from doing no-gi to being like, okay, I need to figure this out now. Yeah. And just a quick thing with Dave, after I got to Bellator, and I didn't do well. Like I lost both my fights in Bellator. The first fight I was winning, and winning pretty handily. And the guy that was fighting, his name Tim Carpenter. He caught an armbar on me, and it was not like I got caught. Like he set me up and he armbarred me like I was just a really bad jiu-jitsu player.
Wow.
But Dave, I came home and I was obviously like dejected after that.
Yeah.
And Dave, I came home on Sunday. Dave sent me a message on Tuesday or Wednesday. It was like, are you done crying now? Can you get your pajamas and come in and let's train? Yeah. And it was just one of those things that, you have those training partners, those people around you that made me snap out of it. And when I started doing jiu-jitsu, and it was like therapy. Like it just made the pain of losing and kind of feeling embarrassed and realizing like, hey, these guys don't care if I lost. Like they just wanted to come back to the gym and train. Yeah. So that's kind of how I got started with jiu-jitsu. And then from there, the last fight I had in Bellator did not go well at all. I threw a kick, he threw a punch. My kick landed, but so did his punch.
Oh shit!
It lasted, I think, 27 seconds.
Wow.
But it was cool because I got to fight at GCU Arena, and that was kind of one of my goals. Like I wanted to get the gloves. Yeah. Because if you go to the show, if you go to the UFC or Bellator, you get to keep the gloves.
Oh, nice.
When you fight at the local level, Like they come take the gloves back, right?
And they slip them on the next guy all sweaty.
They do. Oh. They do. I wore sweaty gloves in fights. But so I did that. I wanted the gloves, and the big things I wanted to fight in an arena.
Yeah.
And it only lasted 30 seconds, but I got to
do it. Not everybody gets to do that, man. It's a very small percentage of people that get to do that.
Yeah, and the guy that I lost to, he ended up going on to become he was the light heavyweight champ for a little while.
Wow.
Really nice dude. But I was okay with it. Like I didn't want to do is I don't want to be that guy that loses in the show and then comes back to the local level and just can't let it go.
Right.
It was like, man, I got to where I wanted to be. I can't win here. It's okay to just step away from this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It just means like I live in reality. So, I remember I got knocked down. It was a flash knockdown. The ref stopped and I stood up and he was like, we're done. And I was like, and I looked at him and I was like, okay. I didn't fight. I mean, I probably could have kept fighting. I would have lost that fight no matter what.
Yeah.
But I didn't fight it. I was just like, yeah. And then I remember looking over and Dave and my other corner, Alex Moore, like we're coming in the cage to see if I was okay. And I just looked at him and I said, I'm okay. And I went over and I just told him, I said, that's how I wanted to go out. I wanted to have no questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't want to be put on a Bellator undercard and fight another dude like me and, kind of look like a couple of doofuses in there. Like I wanted either to do it the right way and lose, or do it the right way and win. But what I didn't want to do is just be like the cannon fodder for the people walking in. So
what do they call? They call them. They used to call them journeymen in boxing. The journeymen, right? They were good fighters, but
absolutely
they just got beat. Yeah.
And I had a career, and I just didn't really. The other part of it, I hate the fight. I hated fighting. I was always petrified. I was always like, fight week was not fun for me.
Yeah.
It was scary. And the closer the fight got, it just got worse. And then they come in and go, you're on deck. And I was just like, oh, let's just leave, dude. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So when it was over, I just, I said, I'm done fighting. And then I just started doing jiu-jitsu full time.
Yeah.
Because I needed something that was physical and hard, but not so like debilitating to my body.
Yeah.
Especially to my head. I got hit at that time. We were training. You'd be sparring 3 times a week.
Ugh.
So like that's why I was saying earlier, I was like, sometimes I just forget what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun. And the cool part of it is that I think it gave me some credibility.
Yeah.
Amongst, in the community that we're in now.
Yeah.
That, I've been to the show and, it was a cool experience.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, I don't know if I would do it again.
Yeah. Is it the camp that you wouldn't do again?
I love the camp.
Do you love the camp? Okay.
I love the training. Okay. It was the fight, and it's just I don't know. It was just to me it was scary, and I've been fortunate to be around a lot of high level fighters, and you come to find out everybody's scared.
Yeah.
Everybody's nervous. Everybody feels the same way. It's just a matter of how you deal with that. And,
yeah.
And maybe I didn't fight long enough at that level, or I was too old, or whatever it meant, whatever it was. But for me, it was just not. It wasn't enjoyable. The money was cool.
Yeah.
But again, like you ain't fighting Floyd Mayweather, so it's not like you're making millions of dollars.
Right. Yeah. You're not retiring off of that money.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But it was a cool experience.
Yeah.
But that's what put me into the jiu-jitsu stuff, and I started doing that just full time.
Yeah.
And I realized I could train jiu-jitsu in one form or another 4, 5, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Because you don't necessarily have to train super hard to get a good workout.
That's
you
right.
don't have to. I don't have to come and roll with you and where we kill each other 4 or 5 days a week. Like I can come roll with you twice a week and then go and play defense with white and blue belts and purple belts.
Yep.
And you kind of learn, like it's to me it's more efficient. It's efficient use of your
that's a good way to put it.
Of your physical time, especially when you get older.
Yep.
Now that you and I are approaching 40, it's easier. It's like you just have to pay attention to that. I can't go out and roll hard 5 or 6 days a week. It's
can't do it.
Okay, let's see, like maybe Monday.
Yeah.
And maybe Thursday. Let me see how this goes. But I still get to go and train and teach, and I get to work with people, and through that you're still getting you're still getting training.
Yeah.
But you're not beating the shit out of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot to be said for that, because I opened my academy with my partner at the time. I was 48 years old, and small little spot, 1,500 square feet where we first started. and, laid down the mats, and friends started coming, and we're teaching classes all day. He and I were there like all day, and, stay up close, the deal. And, but my body would just be pretty torn up by Thursday, pretty torn up. And then like a friend of mine would show up. I'm like, well, I'm going to roll. All right. You know what I mean? Beau showed up, you know what I mean? And then like Friday, I'd have a visitor, coming in, checking out schools. Well, of course I want to roll with the black belt, right? So, okay, I'm rolling today. And then, Saturday open mat, I can't not roll an open mat. You know what I mean? Yep. And then next thing you know, you're rolling, 6 days straight, 7 days straight, and you're just beat up, dude. It's just, it's hard.
That's the nice thing about it, is then once you kind of like, you figure it out, your school grows, and now all of a sudden now you can pick and choose. And the other part of it is it's an antidepressant.
Yeah.
It's whatever your mental issue is, like jiu-jitsu is the pharmaceutical free way of dealing with it. And I see it. I've seen that. I mean, if you think about it, like we're old goats.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And yet we're still like, what do you want to do today? Do you want to go play golf? Do you want to go play tennis? Like, no. Let's put this super uncomfortable thing on.
Sorry.
And
you caught me off guard on that one. Yes.
and then let's put it on and in the summer.
Yeah.
And then let's go try to kill each other.
Yeah.
And then let's do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. And for those people,
there's something wrong in your head, right? But how good do you feel when you're done?
Fantastic. But I'm going to take it a step farther, and I'm not trying to one up you. But if you go to Power MMA and you roll with those, you roll on, is it Sunday your open mat? Yeah. Sunday open mat. There ain't no AC in there.
Oh, yeah, that's by design.
And the worst thing is, like, you open the roll-up door, that just allows like the summer heat just to seep in, and the mats are packed. Mats are packed. A bunch of killers, man.
Yeah,
it's
a bunch
so
of killers
freaking cool.
that would all have very severe mental health diagnoses.
Right.
But also, like, you wouldn't know it because they're getting it out on the mat.
Yeah.
Like, they're not thinking about whatever their problem, whatever their past, whatever their trauma. They're just dealing with Alex Martinez trying to pass my guard.
Yeah.
Right. Or, Drake Kulik's on my back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or God forbid Dusty gets a pass on you. Like, nobody wants to deal with that.
No one wants to deal with that. Yeah.
So you're just thinking about that, and then it just turns the volume down on all your problems. And then, so when you leave, I'm thinking, okay, how did Alex pass my guard? Yeah. And I might think about that for 2, 3, 4 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for those 2, 3, 4 hours, I'm not thinking about whatever your depression, your anxiety, or whatever your issue is. You're thinking about that, and it becomes addicting, but in a good way.
Yeah.
I think there's a point where jiu-jitsu can become toxic.
Yes.
But I'm also a big fan of like using it. Like, I just look around the room.
Yeah.
And no matter what gym you go to, you can look around the room and be like, these are a bunch of good people that are figuring out how to deal with their problems. But man, if you sat down and interviewed these people, you'd find a lot of people got some stuff they're dealing with.
Yeah.
There, So, but that's one of the reasons I like it so much.
Yeah. Well, and what you said earlier, just a minute ago, about it could be toxic. It kind of goes into one of the subjects I wanted to bring up, because your reputation on and off the mats is one of a mentor. You're really big on just mentoring folks and chatting them up. It's not anything you're doing overtly. Like, a lot of people, like, they'll have their issues and you kind of sense it. You got this thing, and then you just start talking to them and they open up to you. And the reason I'm tying those two together is because there's some people that are so wrapped up into their jiu-jitsu thing, whatever it is, competition or, running away from problems or something, and they go over the edge, right? It becomes toxic at that point, right? They can't even see the good in everything that they're putting into jiu-jitsu, right? And what it's doing to their body, to their brain, all of that stuff. And I think they're one mentor away from being okay. Right. And you play that role a lot, right? You chat them up and, you just explain to them like, hey, it's a process, life happens, stuff like that. Tell me about that, man. Tim, when did that become like, it seems like a passion of yours?
I tell people all the time, I live in reality, and reality most often is an ugly place.
Yeah.
And you have to accept your reality, right? So if you're 30 years old and you've never done jiu-jitsu, everybody has the same thing. They come in, they start learning and they get their ass kicked. All of a sudden they catch an arm bar and they get a couple stripes, they get a blue belt. And now every minute of their life, they're watching YouTube videos and they're watching Instagram videos and like, they're going to be a world champion. Yeah. And like, I'm the one will tell you like, no, like that's not that's not real.
Yeah.
But what is real is you could go out and you could compete it locally and you could win tournaments there. You can go to some IBJJF tournaments, have a good time competing, grow as a competitor, go to Master Worlds, make some noise there, and have fun with it.
Yeah.
If you have that, I feel like if you have that as your goal, is to enjoy the process and have fun with it and not worry about the outcome's going to be what it is. But if you have a full-time job, you got a wife and 2 kids, you can't train 3 times a day like the 23-year-olds that are at Autos.
Right.
Couch surfing. Like you got to pay a mortgage and a car payment. Yeah. And you got to take your kid to Little League. And then, you know, you got to spend time with the family, and the wife is, you know, you got to take her to dinner. Yeah. I mean, you just don't have the time. So like, accept what the reality is and enjoy it. Like there's nothing wrong with just going to compete. Like there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to win, it's a totally different set of circumstances. Yeah. It's a totally different animal. And when you lay that out and you lay it out and what it looks like, most people, they might not like it, but I would rather them know like this is the reality. And if anybody cares about you, they're going to tell you the same thing. Yeah. If you have somebody that's telling you, quit your job, quit school, and just be a jiu-jitsu player. I'm like, cool, man. Like that's so basically you're a bum because there's no money in jiu-jitsu. Everybody knows that. Right. Even you got to be like an Andre Galvao. Yeah. Yeah. And he doesn't make money from jiu-jitsu. He makes money from his schools. Yep. One of my, you know, I've been fortunate that I've been around some really high level people in fighting and jiu-jitsu, even like in law enforcement, stuff like that. One of my good friends is a 3-time adult black belt world champion in Nogi. Wow. And he did it in his late 30s. Whoa. And he's known my daughter since she was 2 or 3 years old. When he comes to town, I usually get a text message, usually Friday when he's driving here, and he'll just show up at my house. He just walks in, hey, what's up? And awesome. If I tell people who he is, they're like, no way, you know him? And I'm like, yeah, I know him. Like, he's just so-and-so to us. Like, wow. But he went all in, right? And what he did is he went and he got his degree. Then he went and got a master's degree. He met a world-class jiu-jitsu instructor who just said to him, give it a year, see what happens. Well, this dude has a master's degree in like international studies. So at any point he could walk away from jiu-jitsu and go make 6 figures.
Be just fine. Yeah.
But what he does, and he tells me all the time, like he makes money from his seminars. He's a huge seminar guy. He does great seminars. Yeah. And he does them all over the world. And but that's how he makes his money, right? He doesn't make it from, I mean, the money that he makes from doing these big shows and stuff, I mean, it's nice, of course, but the money, his income is from seminars. Yeah. You know? So it's just like living in reality. So when you have some, 23, 24-year-old kid who comes in, they've never wrestled, never done anything, they fall in love with it, they get their blue belt real quick, they're like, I want to be a black belt world champion. It's like, cool, man, I want to play shortstop for the Yankees, but the problem is I can't hit a ball or throw a ball. So like, what are you going to do here? Yeah. And you just tell them like this, it's not like, it doesn't make you a bad person, but like, don't give everything up in your life to do something that's, man, probably not attainable. Right. And the other thing I'll tell them is when people will say that to me, they're blue belt, 25, 26. They're like, well, I want to be a professional fighter. I'll be like, cool, man. Why don't you, are you going to try for the NBA too? You're going to go try to be the starting quarterback for the Cardinals? Yeah. Because you might as well try it. That's the same thing. The thing with jiu-jitsu is it's so accessible. Yeah. Like me and you can't go to the Cardinals and be like, give me a tryout. Right. Like you're going to be arrested. Yeah. But I can show up at your gym and, as a businessman, if I'm like, I want to join your gym for 5 years and I want to pay you for private. So as a businessman, you're going to be like, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but that's the nice thing in jiu-jitsu is I don't think you would do. I think you would be like, listen, before you dump all this money, let's have a conversation. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so you see that a lot. I see it a lot with people where they're like, well, I'm a professional jiu-jitsu player. Like, well, what does that mean? Yeah. Like, let's start with your W-2. Like, let's start right there. Yeah. Like, how do you pay your bills, man? And like, and if they have it figured out, cool. But a lot of them don't. And I think there's some jiu-jitsu instructors out there that, and that's the toxic side is they have those people that they kind of prey on them. And that's something that I'm just totally against because jiu-jitsu is no different than CrossFit or pickleball. Right. Like you go ask a pickleball player. They love pickleball as much as we love jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Yeah. They ain't making no money from pickleball. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there might be like 10 guys in the world making money off pickleball. Yeah. But guess what? There's like 10 guys in the world making money off jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. I mean, livable money, right? Like,
yeah. That's what I mean. Like an income. When somebody tells me they're a professional something, to me, that doesn't mean you got to make 20 million.
Right.
But if you're telling me you're a professional, whatever, like there should be an associated income with that allows you to actually do that.
Yeah.
You know, fighters, like fighting is another one. You see that a lot where people say they're a professional fighter. I mean, I know what they make at the local level. I know what they make is like your first contract with Bellator or the UFC. It's okay money.
Yeah.
But if you're fighting 3 times a year for 20 grand.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do the math. I mean, in sponsorship, let's just say you're making 80.
Yeah.
How far does 80 grand get you nowadays?
Well, if you have a manager, that's minus 10%. And if you have coaches, right, they're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart, right? So they got to get paid. Nutrition, all that stuff. I mean,
taxes.
That's taxes. Yeah. I mean, 50%. I mean, they tax the crap out of that stuff. It's like, what do they call it? They consider it the same as royalties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So they tax the shit out of it.
Yeah. And that's the part I think a lot of, that's just the world according to Beau. Like, it's not that I'd want to like dash anybody's dreams.
Of course not. Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like, you got to be realistic. And then, you know, sometimes I forget that like I did that. Right? I went into the gym and was like, you know, kind of defied the odds, but I'm like, but let's be realistic about when I was fighting.
Yeah.
Like when I was fighting, it wasn't like people came from wrestling or they came from Muay Thai or they came from Jiu Jitsu and they learned these other things. Now the fighters that are out there now have been doing MMA since they were 10.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a different breed. If I tried to fight now, I might win a couple fights, but I wouldn't get to the show now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the guys in the NFL in the 60s. If you're 6'2" and you weigh 250, like you played offensive line.
Right.
Right now, that's a safety.
That might be a linebacker, maybe. A small one.
Small one, you know?
Fast backer.
Yeah. So that's how I look at it. And and again, it's not to try to dash anybody's dreams. And I will tell them that. Like before we even have that conversation, I'm like, do you want me to tell you the truth or do you want me to tell you what you want to hear? Because I'm good with either one.
Yeah.
I just don't want to mislead you. I don't want you to come back to me 2 years from now when you've destroyed your body and you're 1 in 3 at the local level and you're like, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
I would rather you know ahead of time. And if you want to do it, then okay, there's a certain way you have to do that.
Yeah.
And I kind of know that what I did, but I'm also fortunate again to be around people that are doing it at the highest level.
Yeah.
One of the guys that I get to see train all the time, 2 of them, world ranked, heavyweight and light heavyweight. And that's all they do.
Yeah.
They don't do anything else.
Yeah.
You know, they have hobbies here and there just to kind of get their mind off things, but this is all they do.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing else.
Yeah.
So if you, one of them is been fighting for a long time. So he's doing okay. The other one is still coming up, getting his name out there and doing a great job.
Yeah.
But like he's not driving a Ferrari.
Right.
You know, he's still
in the grind.
He's got it. He's in that grind. And there's no doubt he's going to make it. I mean, he's one of the most violent people I've ever seen.
Wow.
He'll make it.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of like people think they see the Conor McGregors, the John Jones, and they're like, oh, I could do that. It's like, do you think the same thing when you watch golf on TV?
Right.
Do you think the same thing when you watch baseball? Oh, you could do that. It looks so easy.
Yeah.
It's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, go stand in the batter's box and have a major league pitcher throw some heat at you. Tell me how you're going to hit that. Well, that's the same thing if you go on the mat with Buchecha.
Right.
Like it's going to be the same strikeout.
Yeah.
So,
but you know, like the analogy you use in golf is an interesting one because have you ever seen a pro golfer get pissed off even hitting the fairway? I have, because they're on the left side of the fairway versus the right, which is a difference of like 50 feet.
Every single time I'm on the bag in a professional event.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Every single time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's the same thing. We can't see that because we don't have those eyes, right? We don't understand the game well enough to understand that. And, you know, the parallels I'm seeing between jiu-jitsu and MMA are pretty significant. I mean, they're pretty close. When I first started following MMA, I mean, this is like, you know, 90s, right? Whereas this a bunch of guys brawling, right? They just close the cage and it was chaos. And then we started seeing weight classes and stuff like that and the Ultimate Fighter. And then I remember the first time I heard somebody, oh yeah, I quit college so I could fight full time. And they're doing well. And then I years later, oh yeah, we recruited this kid out of high school to do MMA at our gym. I think he was out of
You talking about Aaron Pico?
Yeah. Got recruited out of high school and now, you look at the parallel with jiu-jitsu, like there were, 30-plus-year-old world champions. That number's getting smaller every year because these kids are starting earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
They got Mika Galvao. How old is the kid? 18 years old?
That's
not, I don't want to say it's unheard of because there are some phenoms out there, but it's becoming, that window to the world championship is getting smaller and smaller and smaller because the kids coming up are just so freaking good.
Yeah, and when you're a kid, that's when you have the time, the athleticism, you can recover, you can train 3 times a day.
Yeah.
That's definitely, but again, it's the people tend, I think it's just human nature. Like people look at the superstar and everybody wants to be the superstar. You have to be able to step back and go, okay, I don't have that skill set.
Yeah.
I'm not 6'4", super fast, like John Jones, for example. That dude, that dude could be playing free safety in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right. Look at a lot of the champions that are, MMA or jiu-jitsu. Those guys are all, there's a component that people don't understand. It's not just working hard and training. Like you actually still have to be good at it.
Yeah.
Like you have to have it has to be something that you're gifted with. You have to have the talent to do it as well. And it's not to say you can't learn, but it's like speed in football. Like you can't teach somebody to be fast.
Right.
Like you're either fast or you're not. You can teach somebody to run faster.
Yeah.
But going from a 4.8 40 to a 4.7 40, that's great.
Yeah.
But you're never going to run a 4.5. Like the guy who runs a 4.5 or a 4.3, he can do that off the couch.
Yep.
That's just what he was blessed with.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, you were talking about the similarities, and I know you kind of want to talk about golf a little bit.
Yeah.
The similarities between MMA and golf and jiu-jitsu and golf there's so many, and people, because they're such different sports. One, we're trying to strangle each other, and the other, you're trying to hit a little ball around a park.
Yeah.
But they're literally the same. And I would argue this because I've been fortunate again to be around very high level elite professional golfers, and it's the same as jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
When you have a game plan, like, okay, I'm going to go out, I'm going to take this guy down, pass his guard, and hit him with a loop choke or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing on a tee box, right? I'm gonna start this up the left side. It's gonna start left. It's gonna drop right. Hit the speed slot. I'm gonna hit a wedge to the 8 feet underneath and make the birdie.
Yeah.
Well, then you go and the ball doesn't cut. It just continues straight.
Yeah.
Hit it into the rough.
Yeah.
Now you can't put the spin on the ball, so you're just hoping to hit the green. Then you miss the putt. Well, none of that went the way you planned. Just like when you're like, I'm going to take this guy down. He sprawls and puts you in a guillotine. You got to fight out of that. And now you're back on your feet again, and he knows you're going to shoot. So now you got to pull. Now everything's changed. The difference is in jiu-jitsu, it's over. In the Master 1 division where we roll, it's over in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Adults, it's over in 10. In golf, when you go to jiu-jitsu and you just know, like, you don't have it that day.
Yep.
And like, I'm just in survival mode. They know that off the first tee. Like, if their swing don't feel right, like, they know they're going to be fighting it all day. We're done in 10 minutes. Yeah. If you do multiple rounds, let's say the whole training session, you're done in an hour.
Yeah.
Try 5 hours of knowing this shit ain't working.
Whoa. Yeah. That would be torture.
And having to deal with it mentally and go right back over, and it'd be like, we were talking about this the other day at the gym. It'd be like me and you are wrestling or doing jiu-jitsu, and you take me down. Right. And then we stop, and then we walk 300 yards, get back in the same position. And I get to think about the entire time.
Yeah.
How the fuck did he take me? And then we get there, and now you're on top of me because I know I'm in a bad spot, and now I got to go again.
Yeah.
And then you pass my guard. Then we stop, walk 150 yards, get back in that position, and go again. And we do that 18 times over 5 hours.
That would be torturous.
So when people say, well, what do you think is harder? I'm like, well, obviously physically, jiu-jitsu, MMA is harder. But mentally, golfers, like great golfers, the best golfers that I've been around are the ones that are mentally the strongest. Not necessarily the best ball striker, the best putter, best short game. It's just the ability to forget, the ability to put it behind them. And so as an MMA guy and former MMA guy, jiu-jitsu player, when I'm on the bag, like, I don't get asked up about it because, like, if they miss the green, I'm like, calm down, dude. Like, nobody's trying to hit you in the face.
Yeah.
Like you didn't get knocked out on national TV in your underwear. Okay. Like, you know, or,
right. Yeah.
You know, I kind of keep it in, you know, give them perspective.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't say that, but they know that I've competed at a high level and I've lost at a high level and I've won at a high level.
Yeah.
But so they know, like, they trust that. And there's just sort of like a calming, like we're good, man. Like, let's stay focused on what we're doing here. And you can either use that walk to your advantage or you can let it get to you. Me and my player don't do that. We try to use it positive. You know, I tell them, like, get it out. Like, by the time we get to the ball, motherfuck it to death. But by the time we get to the ball, be ready to rock and roll again.
Yeah.
You know? That
was going to be my question to you, because I mean, competitive athletes at any sport, especially those where you're kind of like, yes, you have a team with you, right? You have your caddy, you have your, you know, whatever, your family there, but failure is like public, right? With us, it's like 20 people in the room. You tap me out, no big deal. We smile, we hug. I might be a little pissed off about it, but, but nobody else is. But this is a very public, you know, a very public thing, very public failure. And guys being that competitive, how do they get themselves back to center? Like, hit a bad shot and you're just so fucking angry, or you miss a putt, like a 3-foot putt. How do they get themselves? I've always been amazed with this. They just calm themselves down and then they just make the next shot.
So some guys are just built that way, that they can do that. What I have found, and I've been caddying at the professional level for like 4 or 5 years at a tour level. I started out caddying just at the local professional events here. And the first time I did it, they handed me a pin sheet. I didn't even know what it was. I was like, what is this geometry problem you gave me?
I don't know what that is. What's a pin sheet?
They put all 18 holes, and they give you the depth of the green, the like, it's, you know, it'll say like 13 on, 4 off the right. And so you know that the hole is 13 steps on, playing 4 off the right.
Gotcha.
But when you look at it, it's just a circle with a line going up the middle with an 18 and then a 4 going left or right on the circle.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it's very easy, but if you don't know what you're looking at, it's kind of like, what the hell is this? But at the level, the elite level, it's two things. It's if you're born with the ability to forget. You know, I have this tattoo here. It's a goldfish. Yeah. Right. So you have the memory of a goldfish has no memory.
Gotcha.
So like, there's times where me and my golfer will be like, he'll do something that he doesn't like, or, you know, something goes wrong, and, you know, sometimes he'll just reach over and tap it, or I'll just look at it and I'll be like, just be a goldfish, dude. Like, forget that. We got to keep moving forward.
I love it. Yeah.
And so it's either the ability to do that. And that's really the fight with a lot of the guys out there, is just the ability to just let it go, keep playing. But the other part that, again, people don't see until you're there, is that at the highest level, we all watch PGA golf on TV if you're a golf fan, right? And you see, you know, the final group, they're coming down the stretch, and, you know, the guy has to hit a cut 3-wood into a back right pin with water on the right. If he misses the green, it's going in the water. And people are like, man, how does he pull that shot off? You know, how does he even have the nuts to take that shot when he could lay up and hit it in there, you know, tight? Well, when you're looking at that guy and you're like, wow, you got to remember that dude's probably worth between 20 and 30 million bucks. If he pulls the shot off, he wins and he makes 2 million. If he doesn't pull the shot off and he takes second, he makes 1.2 million. Either way, he's going to get in his, you know, whatever car they're giving him for the week, his Audi. Yeah. And he's going to drive to the airport, get on his net jet, fly back to Florida and get in his Ferrari and drive to his mansion. So there's not the pressure that a guy who's trying to make it, who might lose his tour card, is trying to make it. Like, that's a different set of pressure. Yeah. You know, when you're just playing golf because you want to compete and you want to win the BMW. You don't care about the money because you've got 30 million in the bank. Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. That's why people see that. It's the same thing with baseball. It's the same thing with football. It's the same thing with MMA. There's a reason that the guys at the top are willing. Like, Israel Adesanya is a perfect example. Like, he goes out there and he does wild shit. Like, wild shit. The dude's a millionaire. Like, if he loses, it's like, okay, well, that sucks, but eventually I was going to lose. I mean, he even said it when he lost that fight to the Brazilian guy. Yeah. But hey, man, it happens. Yeah. I don't know that he would have that attitude if he didn't have any money. You know, he was trying to come up. And that's why you see a lot of guys at the levels, like the local levels of jiu-jitsu. We watched some fights the other night, some undercard fights on Bellator or something, or UFC, where they they just want to win.
Yeah.
Right. So they get in there, they take the dude. What's the guy's name? He was on the Sandhagen guy. He fought, I can't remember the guy's name who he fought, but a good Rob Font. Good. Both of them great fighters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Sandhagen took the dude down, and it was a boring fight. If you're watching and you don't understand
Correct.
it. If you understand it, you're looking at it going, that dude is tactically, like, his game plan was solid. Like, he just took Font out of his game. Was it fun to watch? No.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So he's fighting, in my opinion, like, Sandhagen's probably doing okay. Yeah. But, like, he wants to get to where he can get that big money.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, man, I don't buy the thing that we do this because we love it. Like, I mean, we're doing this for money. Yeah. Like, if you're playing golf at a high level, if you're competing MMA and you want to get to the show, like, that's great. If you're, like, in my position, you're 30s, you're a police officer, whatever. Yeah, I just want the gloves. But if you're 22, like, man, you want to be the next Conor McGregor. Like, who wouldn't want to be the next Conor McGregor? Yeah. But there's a reason that, like, McGregor does what he does. Like, he's worth, I mean, the dude talked himself into a winning a $70 million lottery ticket. He had no business fighting Floyd Mayweather. No. But once he made that money, like, do we really think that he cares if he wins or loses? No. I mean, that dude's making $30 million a fight. Yeah. And God bless him for it. Right?
Yeah.
That's
good for
awesome.
him.
And I understand the 100%. Dream. Yeah. But when you're talking about competing, that's what I see at all levels is like the guy, like if you're just trying to get to the finals at Worlds, we're not making any money. No. But you don't blow it out in the first round or the second round. Right. Once you get to the semifinals, you're like, okay, I'm on the podium. Yeah. Like, if I go to the finals tired, fine, but I'm not going to lose because I didn't put it all out there.
That's right. And he's going to be just as tired as me in the final. Exactly. Right. So we're good. Right. Like, it's an even fight.
So it's just a lot of it is like the mental side of it and trying to understand. That's one of the things that Matt and I work with on the golf course is, like, don't worry about the money. Like, you're not making any money here anyway. The Canadian Tour is very high level golf, but it's the next step to get to the PGA Tour. Yeah. So the guys they're making okay. I mean, it's not terrible to go play golf for 4 days at nice golf courses, but they're not making millions. Okay. So I tell them, like, look, dude, just focus on. Let's just focus on. Like, our game plan is play the par threes even or better. Try to score on as many par fives as we can, and let's just play the par fours and see what we can do on them. Yeah. So we have that strict game plan. It's very difficult when you get out there to not be thinking about the money. And at the level that Matt plays at, if you win the tournament, you make $40,000, Okay. It's not terrible.
That's not terrible. Does he play every week?
So we've done there's 3 stretches. The first was 3, second was 4. This last one is 3. But it's that pressure of, like, for example, like, again, we were talking about earlier, the guy misses the green. He makes 1.5 million. The winner makes 2.2. Well, what are you going to do with 1.5 that you can't do with 2.2? Right. Right. But if you're my guy and you miss a putt, it might be the difference between $5,000 and $1,200. Whoa. So if you're trying to pay your bills, well, that's a big difference. Yeah. Like, the other way, you're looking at, do I want a Bentley or a Ferrari? Yeah. Red or black, who cares? Right. Right. But if you're looking at, like, man, I might have to call my landlord if I miss this putt. Wow. So there's a different pressure that's there for those guys. And that's not something people see. You have to be out there to see it and understand it. But the ability to do that is huge. Yeah. But again, going back to what we're talking about jiu-jitsu, like, you can have that ability all day long, but you also have to have the skill. You got to be able to hit the ball. You got to be able to control the wedges. You got to be able to make your putts. Like in jiu-jitsu, you got to be able to pull, shoot, defend. You got to know the grips. You got to know defense, whatever. Scramble. Same with MMA. Yeah. You got to be able to stand, especially now. Like, if you don't have basic boxing and basic kickboxing and basic wrestling, you're not going to get out of the local level.
No, you're a punching bag. Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you get to the next level, you see, like, it's shocking how good everybody is. Yeah. And that's the nice thing about training out at Power is that you get to see, like, they just bring, like, so you just walk in someday.
Elite level.
And it's just like a who's who of, like, is that Paulo Costas? What? Like, we have a guy in there that trains fighters now. I think he's retired, but, like, the dude is an absolute beast. I mean, he wrestled at Iowa. Yeah. He's got really long arms, those hard punches. His top game is crazy. And he's just training people now. Yeah. I mean, I remember when he was fighting and he came in and trained, and it was like, I mean, I'm a black belt, and I think he was probably a blue or white belt. when it was time to roll, like I was on the opposite side of the mat.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I don't want anything to do with that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? You can watch it all day long. Like you can watch golf all day long and think, man, I could probably do that. You can watch baseball. You can watch jiu-jitsu all day long. Yep. But until somebody at the elite level is whipping your ass, right? If you're going like, whoever's out, right? And you're playing golf against somebody like your Matt, right? Yep. And you watch him play, you're like, I don't belong here. Yeah. I don't fucking belong here. Right. Yeah, and he's not even at that top level. He's at the second level, right? But he's still up there. He's still got all the talent in the world. And just like I had, I've rolled with the Kishinyo Samir, Josh Cisneros, Kevin Carrasco, a lot of guys at that high level. It's not even close. Right. It's not even close. Like I don't belong there.
You should see how many guys that play golf they're scratch players. They play 1 over, 1 under. Yeah. And they think, I'm one swing away from playing on the tour. And I'm like, you don't have any idea. I was in a tournament. I was caddying in a tournament, and it was unfortunate. Matt missed the cut by like a shot. So I got picked up by a guy who made the cut. Because on the Canadian tour, you don't have to have a caddy on Monday and Tuesday, or on Thursday, Friday. You have to have one on the weekend. Yeah. So one of the guys in our group, he made the cut. Matt, unfortunately, had missed it. And he approached Matt and asked him if it was okay if he asked me to caddy on the weekend. And it was cool, right? Yeah. So like I caddied for him on Saturday. Sunday we go out, and he's playing solid golf. I mean, this dude played major college golf. He played at Wake Forest. Wow. He was actually on the Sports Center top 10 and beat LeBron James in the list. He had holed out at the NCAA championship. Really cool guy. Yeah. But in the group, we were playing with this dude. His last name is Holzer, and tall kid, like lean, skinny kid, long hair. He's got the look. Like he's got that look of like, man, this guy makes it. Like you're gonna throw money at him just because he got the look. Yeah. This dude's just playing like average, just average, like for professional. Like he's like 1 under through the day. And we get to 15. So 15, he throws like a 180-yard shot, throws it to 2 feet. It was a par 3, birdie. Oh. Next hole's a par 5. These guys all hit it a mile. This guy hits it like 320, puts it on the green, 2 putts, birdie. Wow. Next hole's a par 3 again. He dunk aces it just in the air in the hole. Holy shit. Now he's 4 under through the last 3 holes. He's gone from 8 under now to 12. And on the last hole, he hits it to 2 feet again. So in the last 4 holes, he goes 5 under. Wow. And that's just what they do. Yeah. Like that. And so when somebody tells me like, oh, I'm a good golfer, it's like, yeah, man, you're a good rec golfer. Just like I'm a good old man jiu-jitsu player. Like you put me in there with another 50-year-old, like let's do it. I got a good chance. Yeah. You put me in there with Buchecha, like I'm going to grab onto his leg and just try to like take a little piece of the fabric with me while he rips my arm off. Right. But I live in reality. Yeah. Right? And a lot of people, they just don't want to hear that. They want to hear that, no, you could play out there. Yeah. But I'm not that guy. Yeah. That's why I tell people. And people ask like, well, you see me play. What do you think? And I'm like, I think you're good, man. Like, there's no question. Like, you're going to win the club championship. Yeah. But I also say to him, like, hey, if you think hey, man, like, you want to chase the dream? I'm all for it. I did. Like, I threw down and it ended up working out for me for my goal. Yeah. Go to a mini tour event in Arizona. Just go play against the local pros here that have never been on tour, but maybe they've had a couple starts. Go enter that tournament and see how you do. Maybe you'll shock yourself. Maybe you're somebody that can step up and play better under the pressure. Unfortunately, probably what's going to happen is you're going to, you shoot even par at your home club or 1 or 2 under. You go to a professional event, you're probably going to shoot 5 to 7 over par. Yeah. Every day. Yeah. So while the winner is going to shoot 12 under, you're going to finish at 15 or 16 over. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you're a bad golfer. Yeah. It just means that there's levels. But go try. Like I'm a fan. Like if you want to try. Just don't go out there with unreasonable expectations. That's the thing we use in golf is manage your expectations. Same with jiu-jitsu. Like if I got a dude training with us now, like he's come so far and he's been with us for a couple of years. Just really strong wrestling, like, and has the mentality. I mean, he's got the right mentality to do jiu-jitsu. He listens and not just he listens to everybody. Like he takes everything in. Real savvy dude. He's getting ready to go compete at Master Worlds as a blue belt. And he's throwing everything into it. But we talk to him, we have conversations all the time. It's like, just remember, man, okay, like this is what you do outside. Like you're a husband, you're a dad, you have a very successful business. jiu-jitsu is just something you do.
Yep.
So use that to relax. Like you're literally sponsoring yourself. So if you go out there and roll free, who cares if you win? Dude, you're in Vegas. So let's just say you go out and get tapped in 30 seconds. Okay, go take a shower and go out. Like, who cares, man? Yeah. But if you go there and this is like, if you lose, that's some sort of like indicator of what kind of a human you are. Well, then you're going to be rolling with pressure and you're not going to be free. But if you step back and go, look, man, that lady likes me whether I win or lose. That little girl thinks I'm a hero no matter what.
Yeah.
Like my business is still going to thrive whether I win or lose this jiu-jitsu match.
Yeah.
If he goes out and does that, I have zero doubt that he's going to perform well. Please notice I didn't say he's going to go out and win worlds. He's going to perform well. He's going to do well. And when he performs well and he wrestles free, I mean, I wouldn't fall out of my chair if he rolled through that competition.
Yeah.
But it's jiu-jitsu. Like everybody gets caught.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So my big thing with him is to like go out there, prepare. And the thing I tell people, whether it's a golfer, a fighter, a jiu-jitsu player, is train hard enough to make failure acceptable. So that when you lose, if it doesn't go your way, you did everything you could do. And you lost to somebody who's better. And there is nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that. But what can be bad is when you go out and you lose to somebody that you know you could beat because you didn't train right.
Yeah.
Or you're too tense or you're whatever. Just train hard enough or train so hard that failure is acceptable. That's how I fought. So when I lost, I was like, I mean, it sucks. Like you definitely want to go hide. But when you process it later, it's like, there's nothing more I could have done for my life. Right? I was a cop. I had 3 kids, married. Like I didn't have what that 25-year-old single guy has. I couldn't just throw it all. So I did the best I could do. And that's kind of how I say with anything you're doing, like, it doesn't really matter whether you're taking a police test to promote, like do everything you can so that if it doesn't go your way, you don't look back and go, damn, if I had just done this, like fail, like go all in if you're going to go all in, you know, because that's the only way you're going to win. And it makes losing and it makes failure a lot easier to take when you've given it everything you've got. And, you know, I think some people just some people's expectations are not reasonable. And I think as a jiu-jitsu, as a black belt instructor, as a caddy that's being trusted at the professional level, like I have to tell Matt sometimes, dude, you cannot make this shot. Okay. Like the rule we use is if I give you 10 tries to make this shot, how many times are you going to put it on the green? And if it's not 60, 70%, like I'll be like, we should probably lay up. And he hates that. Well, he'll look at me and he'll be like, I feel like a blah, blah, blah. But he trusts me, right? Because I'm living in reality. I know what he's seeing because he's crazy. Like he knows he can pull that shot off, and maybe 1 or 2 times he can. But at that particular moment, my job is to manage the course and manage his emotions. Same thing in jiu-jitsu. You know, I got my buddy who's getting ready to do the worlds. Like I want him to go out. I want him to win, but I want him to enjoy the process. And when it's all over, be able to be like, man, I got to the semis, or I won it, or I got beat in the second round. Okay, well, it ain't because you didn't train right. Like you've been doing everything right, you know? So that's how I kind of look at things when we talk about the mentoring thing. It's like sometimes the truth is it's not always fun, but it's necessary, especially in a sport where literally injury and, you know, I don't want to be dramatic, but potentially catastrophic injury, permanent injury is in fighting and jiu-jitsu. I mean, you know, if you came to me and said, hey, I think I'm going to take a match with Gordon Ryan, you know, I'd be like, my first one would be like, why? And then I would be like, please don't do that.
Please don't.
Okay. Like, and not because I don't think not because I wouldn't like watching you go out and compete. I don't want anything bad to happen to you, man. You're like, we're both old dudes. Let's just like
stick to our thing.
Go find his coach. Like he's probably old, you know? That would be what I would say. But then if you said, you know what, I'm going to do this, then I'd be like, okay, what can I do to help you train? Right. As long as you understand, like the expectation is like, okay, if you like, do you really think you can beat Gordon Ryan? And the funny part is when you talk to somebody who says yes to that. And it's like, dude, you train twice a week. Right. Yeah. It's just never going to happen. Do you understand how this works? So that's how I look at things. And, you know, and again, I'm just fortunate to be around. It's a cool community to be around. And I just try to give people the best advice I can. And sometimes people don't like that. But I feel as an instructor, my job's not to be your friend so much as to be honest with you. You know, that's really kind of how I try to do it. And if we can be friends, I found that the more times you're honest with somebody, they trust you. That's where friendships are built. I think if you're stroking people along and all of a sudden they're like, it doesn't work out. They're like, you lied to me. Like they've been had.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you this thing real quick. I usually tell a story real fast. Like, there was a kid, he's not even a kid, he's a grown ass man, but I was teaching at a school here when I first moved up here. And this dude, tough blue belt, right? This dude had just finished medical school. He's getting ready to do his internship, and we had gone to an open mat. And he caught me in a guillotine.
Okay. And
I was like, I was pissed. And so we were talking afterwards, and he was real excited, and I was like, and that's kind of, there's two things to this story. Like, that was when I realized that when a blue or a purple belt taps a black belt, like that makes their month.
Oh yeah.
Right. So it made it easy. Like I was like, oh, wait a minute, man. Cause I hadn't been a black belt that long. So I was kind of like, this is a different way to look at it. Like, yeah, I don't like getting beat, but man, if you get caught by somebody that's a blue or a purple belt, like, man, that's, cause I remember doing it. Right. But you forget when you're a black belt.
Right. So,
he's got this, he's got this little swagger. We're having this conversation outside, and he tells me that he's going to delay his internship because he wants to pursue jiu-jitsu full time.
Oh boy. And
I was like, I stopped and I was like, what'd you say? And he goes, yeah, he goes, I'm thinking, and he had this thought obviously before me and him rolled that day.
Sure.
And I was like, look, man, okay, I am not the litmus test. Okay. Like, I have a black belt, but you're going to catch so-and-so at our gym with that. But then I just told him, I said, look, if you do that, okay, I will personally go to every school in the Valley and have you blackballed. Okay. Like, you are not going to give up a career in medicine that you've worked your entire life for to do jiu-jitsu because you've won a couple local tournaments at blue belt.
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking crazy?
Right. Yeah.
And he was like, and I said, I'm not fucking around with you, man. I like you. I think you're a great dude. I respect the fuck out of somebody that can get through that kind of schooling.
Yeah.
But right now, dude, you're concerning me because you're literally talking about giving up a career that most people, number one, don't even look at. The people that do start it, a lot of them never finish, and you're done with it, and you want to stop so you can fucking pajama wrestle full time?
Yeah.
And then I asked him, I said, are you like independently wealthy or something? And he's like, no. And I was like, I said, okay, well, if you do that, I'm telling you that's what I'm going to do. And I promise you. And I said, and I'm retired, so I have the time to do it. and most of the instructors that I know, if I came to you and said that, I'm sure you'd be like, because it's got a big picture thing, right?
Yeah.
And so what he ended up doing, he kept training, got his internship, and now he's crushing it as a doctor.
Good for him.
And again, not that was all because of me, but it was just like I happened to be in a position that day to slap him with a reality check.
Yeah.
And I think that's what every black belt should do. And if you're not doing that as a black belt, like keeping people like in reality, that's where jiu-jitsu gets toxic. Yeah. Right. And the converse, if you have that 19-year-old who's amazing, like, yeah, okay. But it's all situational. Yeah. Right? It's just kind of like, being a black belt is kind of like being a full-time caddy, especially when you're an old dog instructor. It's like, my job isn't to like win anymore. My job is to make you good at jiu-jitsu, but better at life. Yeah. And make good decisions. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So that's the way I like it. That's why I like doing these things, just because some people, I know sometimes my appearance or the way I talk, sometimes people are like, but like my intentions are good. Yeah. Sometimes my delivery could use some work, but of course, that's kind of where I come from with stuff. So. Yeah.
So we gotta close out because I've got to head to the academy, but I want to ask you two questions before we wrap up. Okay. And the first one I ask all black belts, especially those with especially 3 stripe black belts. How do you want to be remembered? Let's forget like outside of jiu-jitsu. How do you want to be remembered in the community?
Just kind of like we were talking about, that I live in reality, and I didn't ask people to do anything that I hadn't done or currently do. Yeah. Right. I mean, we were talking about comp training. Yeah. I don't show up to comp training and not roll. Yeah. Like, I show up and roll. Yep. Like the air conditioning's off. We don't turn the fan on. Like, I'm in there dying with everybody else. Yep. So I want to kind of like I led by example, and that if you wanted the truth, you could come and I would tell you. Not to hurt your feelings, but to save you down the road. Yeah. But also to be support. If I if you want to do it, man, like, cool. I just want you to know what it looks like going forward, because and if I don't know, I've always said that the biggest asset of a leader, it's not the ability to command a room and tell people what to do. It's the ability to say, I don't know. That's, to me, is the number one asset of a leader. Because if you ask me a question as a black belt, like, well, how do you play lapel guard? I don't know. I don't play lapel guard, right. But I know somebody that does. Yeah. But if I make it up just because I'm a black belt, you're going to listen to me because you're a blue belt. You don't know shit.
Right. Yeah.
But if I do that and then you realize what I'm teaching you is wrong, then I lose credibility, and every black belt loses credibility, because now a person's like, do you really know? But if I go, you know what? I'm not a lapel guy, man, but Josh Rodriguez from GD, like, that dude plays lapels all the time. They're like shoelaces to him, man. Yeah. He just ties them up. Yeah. You want to learn that shit? Go see him. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's how I want to be. That is like that type of mentality.
I love it. Yeah.
That's that.
Last question, I promise. What do you want all of the black belts that you promote to have in common?
That's a good question. So dealing, again, black belts get promoted at all different ages, all different skill sets. I mean, there's definitely a competition black belt, and then there's the recreational black belt. I think there's sort of a happy medium in between all of those. So I think the black belts that I promote, I think for me, I want them to be competent in jiu-jitsu, competent in their game, have the ability to say, I don't know, and be like, hey, I'm not a great wrestler, but hey, we got Mikey's here today. He's a great wrestler. Yeah. Let's go talk to him, to be able to dumb yourself down, even though you're a black belt. I love it. But also to have your shit together outside the gym. Like, that's a big thing to me, because I think if someone's coming to you, because people come to black belts not just for jiu-jitsu advice, they come to you for life advice. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So if you're, 35, 40 years old and like you're unemployed, you drive a 20-year-old car, and you always have to be picked up because your car broke down. You don't have you're not making the best decisions off the mat. I mean, you might be a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but you're kind of a shitbird in life. Yeah. I think you need to, for me, I like the black belts that we promote, or that I have any say in, to be a full package, so that people can come to them, because it's not just jiu-jitsu. Right. They come to you for everything: relationship, money, purchases, they have this, that going on. And believe me, like, I'm no saint in any one of those things. But again, because I live in reality, I can say, like, look, like, I didn't always make the best choices here, or the best choices here. This is what I learned from it. And you could kind of have a good package all the way around through all parts of your life as a black belt. That's a big ask. So it's like, sometimes you got a guy who's maybe not the best jiu-jitsu player, but man, he's squared away. Yeah. Like, the dude's, he's got a great family. So like, things can offset. But it's just being like a total package, and being able to command respect, with a black belt. I mean, like, there's a saying, if you're in the military, or in police work, or in a fire department, that if you take all rank off and you sit everybody in a squad down, and somebody walks in that doesn't know anybody, they should be able to pick out the sergeant or the captain. Yeah. That's what I want people to be able to pick out with a black belt. I love it. That, like, nobody's wearing a belt. He's the black belt. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a he. It could be a she. Yeah. You know what I mean? It could be, it doesn't have to be a big guy. It could be like Dusty. Dusty's a great example. Yeah. Like, Dusty is, of all the people that I know, like, that dude is probably the most outgoing. He'll drop everything in a second. You tell him you got a body in the trunk, he doesn't ask why. He just says, where do you need the shovel? Yeah. Right. Yeah. But like, Dusty worked his ass off to get his black belt. Yeah. And he doesn't get to train as much as he'd like, because he's out there fighting fires in the woods. Yeah. But I remember when Dusty was flipping pizzas at Little Caesars. Wow. Right. Yeah. And he listened to the people around him, not just me. Like, he listened, J-Rod's a big mentor to him. He's got Mikey giving him good advice. He's got like some high level professional fighters giving him good advice, and he takes that. And with what he has, Dusty doesn't have a PhD in astrophysics, but he's got a great work ethic. He's a great team player. So he found a job that he can excel in. To me, like, he's also got great jiu-jitsu. He's super fun to roll with. Yes. Yeah. Right? And that's awesome. But now he's done these other things that make him, to me, like, that's a black belt.
Yeah.
That's somebody who came from shit. Dusty could easily be doing life.
Wow.
I mean, he's just like, and not for murder or anything, but because just dumb decisions, you know, like, but he didn't do that. He chose the right path, you know, for the most part.
Yeah.
And when he would make a mistake or something, he got all together. Like Dusty's a perfect example of like what I would say is like the perfect black belt.
I love it.
And if you don't know Dusty, like send him a message and take him to lunch and just talk to him. Just say, tell me your story, man. If you're not motivated by that, then I don't know what would motivate you.
Yeah.
You know, and Dusty, the honest answer is like, Dusty doesn't compete the best. Yeah. He doesn't win every tournament, but he goes out, he gives it 100%. And when he's done, he will go over sweating, out of breath, with a tweaked arm, and corner a white belt.
Wow.
That's a black belt. Yeah. That's what I would promote. And in convert, if you have the greatest black belt in the world, does everything, kills everybody, but he's a shitbird. Yeah. For me, you stay a brown belt.
Right.
You know, that's how I look at it.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. Well, listen, man, we got to wrap up, but cool. This is a fun podcast, man. I really enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for doing it, taking the time out of your busy schedule. You're just back from Canada. Well, listen, everybody, if you love the podcast or even if you hate the podcast, please leave us a review on Spotify, on YouTube, all that stuff. You can find us on Instagram at the BJJ Foxcast and Facebook. And don't look at the website yet. I'm working on that. And Beau, do you have anything else you want to close with?
Oh man, it was cool. I was like, this is cool stuff, man. This is a cool setup, and always congratulations on your gym too.
Thank you, man.
Going from where you started to what you have now.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite places to go, like for open mat, and just because the vibe's always good. Everybody's friendly and nice, and it's pretty cool to go there because like you got those guys over there. You got the guys that are really good, and you got the guys just loving it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, dude. So congrats on that. Congrats on this. It's pretty cool.
Thanks, brother. Thanks. We'll do this again.
Definitely.
All right, bro. Thanks.